we have a very special guest here this afternoon. I became a Doctor Who fan back in 1983, so this gentleman was the Doctor when I came in. He has had an incredible television and theater career, done many things, like At Home with the Braithwaites, Law and Order UK, All Creatures Great and Small. And he also did a little show called Doctor Who. So, we will do a little bit of an interview and then we'll have plenty of time for questions. So everybody please give a big welcome to Mr. Peter Davison.
But he hasn't turned up. So I'm going to interview myself. Just in case no one turned up, I brought my own fan.
Okay, so we're going to... They have a lot of questions for you about the Doctor, but we're going to jump right into the important business.
Okay.
The 50th anniversary.
Okay.
Now, a few months ago, 3 or 4, maybe 5 months ago, you were quoted in the press as saying that if the classic Doctors were not invited into the 50th anniversary special,
yes,
you would film your own. This is not a plug, but I do run a small Doctor Who convention here in Atlanta called Timegate, and Colin Baker was our guest in May, and I asked him this question, and he chose not to answer. So, I will pose this question. Are you filming a 50th anniversary special of your own with the classic Doctors?
I will stand by my statement of a few months ago. I am going to make the best 50th anniversary special. I'm sure the real 50th anniversary session will be spectacular and wonderful, and look out at the end of it for other information, other content that may be coming your way. I would hate people to get their expectations up because, you know, I started off a couple of years ago. I did a little short film for just a convention
for Gallifrey,
that I missed in Gallifrey, and I just had this idea that it would be fun just to do something for you lot, because actually you've been quite loyal over the years to us old fogies. So that if we weren't going to appear in the 50th anniversary special, then I was damn well going to make sure there was something for you to watch. So anyway, roll on.
Then I guess we should expect to see that sometime around November, and hey, maybe the BBC will broadcast it before the...
Yes, who knows?
So you visited the Gallifrey convention in LA a couple of times, and if you haven't seen the videos that he made for those, the first time when he wasn't able to come because of the run of Legally Blonde was extended, and the second year when he did come, and they're brilliant. And have a lot of really great little cameos in it.
I mean, if you haven't seen them, go to Vimeo and put my name in, and I think they both turn up there. But they're quite fun. But I just thought I'd try something more ambitious. I don't know if it will work out or not. But you know, we're putting our heart and soul into it. Whatever.
So there you have it. It's official. Matt Smith came into the role a couple of years ago, right? And at that time was the youngest actor to have played the Doctor. I'm sure that you felt a little bit of empathy with him, since at your time, you were the youngest, and a lot of people felt that you were too young to play the Doctor, yourself included.
Myself included, yes. People asked me if I was upset that Matt Smith was now the youngest, but no, I was just very gratified. You know, that when I came along, I thought I was a bit young, and I'm sure other people did as well, but so what's happened since it came back is that there's been a succession of younger Doctors, and now I don't seem at all out of place at all. In fact, it seems like I started a trend. So I'm quite happy about that.
Have you done any work with Peter Capaldi?
No, the only time I've met Pete, I admire his work enormously, and the only time I met him was at the Big Reveal show.
Yes.
A couple of weeks ago, and at the end, he had sort of confetti and stuff falling on his head. Poor bloke, didn't know what hit him, so I just came up to him and we sat alone. I gave him a hug and I whispered in his ear, "What the hell have you done?"
Anybody who takes the role on now knows pretty much what they're getting into. You know, that it is going to follow them for the rest of their life. You know, no matter what you do, you could be the first actor to do Shakespeare on the moon. And after that, your headline billing in the newspaper will always be former Doctor Who, whomever. And at your time, you came in at the time when you were the first one who pretty much grew up watching the show.
I was the first one,
yes.
I think. Yes.
And when you came in, the fan convention phenomenon was just starting.
Yes.
Do you think that Longleat changed the way that fans interact with the show? For those who don't familiar, Longleat was a convention that the BBC put on for the show's 20th anniversary, and it's pretty much Doctor Who's Woodstock, where they expected a few thousand people, and something like 20,000 showed up.
The tragedy of it is we warned them. The BBC Enterprises, as they were then called, I think they estimated that 500 people would turn up. And we said, no, we think rather more than that will turn up. And they said, oh, no, we're going to cater for 500. Consequently, there was just a traffic jam all day. I spent most of the day walking up and down the line outside that they never got in, because there was just no room for them. So actually they had a pretty good deal, because all the Doctors, one after the other, walked up and down the line. So they probably got an awful lot closer to the Doctors than probably the people actually inside did. I think it changed. The BBC got an idea then of what they were dealing with and the potential of it. I'm not sure they ever took advantage of it. I think really it was the fan clubs in America. First of all, the small fan clubs who would organise conventions, and then the bigger conventions that sort of came along as a result of that. I think they're the people that kept the show going and raised the profile of it. I think BBC Enterprises rather missed the boat, and not unusually. Anyway, that's my job gone for a burden. Okay.
In the new series, there have been a number of classic monsters and things that have come back into the show, Sontarans and Daleks and everything. What's something from your era that you would like to see come into the new series?
I think they were a typically Doctor Who monster really, in that they were totally impractical, but I had a slight affection for the pteroleptals. They couldn't really do anything, because they would just sort of waddle along, and they had these ridiculous hair. How they took over the universe and invaded the Earth, I have no idea. But anyway, I kind of liked that. There was a certain nostalgic quality to it. So I liked those. But apart from that, I just love the traditional. Cybermen were always my favourite. I rather like my Cybermen, actually. I thought they had a certain quality about them. You could just see through the perspex thing on the face, you could just see the face behind there. And we had a great Cyberman, David Banks.
David Banks, yeah, that's right.
But no, I think they're doing a fine job. They're doing a fantastic job with the monsters now, I think. But I'm deeply envious, of course, of the special effects they have. That'll be my next task. Go back and redo all the special effects. No one would like that, because it's not the original stuff. Anyway,
did you see what they did with Kinda?
I did see that. Was it better? I don't know.
The one where
Oh, the snake.
Yes,
yeah,
exactly.
the snake.
That was pretty credible.
Yes, it was actually better, but he couldn't do much worse than the original snake.
Well, that's
Sorry, not to be mean.
Speaking of the Kindred, the Mara is something that I would like to see come into the new series.
Yes, that was a good. I like those stories actually. I thought they were excellent stories.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
We have a microphone right out here, and if you would like to ask Mr. Davison a question, please line up. While they're doing that...
It's bright here, isn't it?
It is. These lights right here are insane. Hi.
Hello.
Hello.
I was actually wondering, given the opportunity of assembling a Doctor and Companion dream team from any actors you could think of, who would you cast?
A Doctor Who companion.
Well, a Doctor and Companion dream team, who would you pick if you were the casting person?
If I was casting another Doctor, not
Yeah.
a Doctor that's been around. When I was asked, I mean, you won't thank me for saying this now because I'm sure you'd rather sit in a nice armchair and watch the telly. But we have an actor here, David Warner, who I always thought would be a brilliant Doctor. And I remember being asked when the series was off the air, and indeed when maybe it was rumoured coming back, would I like to see the Doctor? And I always said David Warner, because I just thought he's got a fantastic quality as an actor. Companion, Lord, I have no idea. Who should we pick? I can pick anyone at all. Yeah, I'll pick you. Okay, yes.
Hello. So, without family bias of the son-in-law, who's your favorite Doctor?
No one's recording this, of course, are they? Could we confiscate all the video equipment when these people do? My favourite Doctor was the one I grew up with, which was Patrick Troughton. Because I thought he had the most difficult job. He was the first regeneration, and I know a lot of you in this country only saw Tom Baker, and so when I came along it was a terrible shock. But in Britain, William Hartnell was the first Doctor. He played it for 3 years. No one ever dreamt about the idea of there being a regeneration. I remember being very unsure about this a new actor they'd cast as the Doctor. And I remember being won over within the first episode of Patrick Troughton's time, and so he would be my favourite, definitely.
Thank you. So you saw Power of the Daleks when it broadcast? Yes.
Yes.
Oh
yeah.
my gosh.
Yeah.
And we all
I am
remember
so old. Yes.
William Hartnell is actually my favorite Doctor, but your time in the TARDIS is actually my favorite era of Doctor Who.
Oh, okay, excellent, thank you.
Because like Hartnell's era, it had multiple companions, and I really liked how having multiple companions gave you more viewpoints of what was going on.
Yes.
And I was wondering, what was your favorite era of Doctor Who? Not your favorite Doctor, just what you like, what story arc or era you like best.
Oh, that's a very good question. I mean, I liked the very first stories actually. I thought they had no special effects at all, and everything was sort of created with a kind of atmosphere. And although it's not contradicting myself in terms of Patrick, I love those first few stories of William Hartnell's just because it was at that point it was kind of new. It hadn't settled into a pattern, but that's what really captured the imagination of people, I think. So I would say the first few stories, and there was, as I said, no special effects at all. There was really nothing. It was just all atmosphere. Black and white helped, actually. Apart from that, I must admit, I liked the series when it came back. Russell T Davies. I thought he had a fantastic sense of story arcs.
In reference to the show The Last Detective.
Yes. The Last
great show.
In the show, your character was notably extremely polite. So I'd like to ask, does the way you do your character, if you do it a lot, does it affect yourself, such as if you were the last detective a lot?
Would I become extremely polite?
Yes.
Are you suggesting that at one point I was not extremely polite? I don't know. I don't really believe in the idea that you take the character home with you that much. I mean, what if you're playing a killer? I tend to think actually that I'm rather nice when I'm playing a killer. I've not played many killers, but when I have done, I think I've been actually rather pleasant at home. Then you're rather worried maybe you will get carried away. I don't know about that. I don't know about that. I mean, I just like the character. Oh, he's gone. Okay. Hello. Anyway, what I was saying. I don't know. I'd like to think I'm fairly polite. Anyway, but I like that character because he just seemed to me that the policemen I've come across in Britain, anyway, they tend to be quite polite. I don't know what they're like over here.
It varies.
They're polite while they're pointing a gun at you. Actually, do you know, this is going to get myself into trouble again, but everyone is wonderfully polite in this country. I've heard nothing but everyone is being so, they're nice, and every time you come into the country, except with the exception of the actual immigration people. When you walk into that immigration hall at the airport, if you probably don't have to go through it because you're US citizens, most of you, you have to queue up, you have to line up for hours because there's always not enough people. And they run videos of how wonderful the immigration people are. So you'll see shots of immigration people going, and then you expect yourself, when you get there, they kind of, first of all, if you dare to have your toe over that yellow line, it's, could you get your foot behind the yellow line, please? And when they come up to you, you go, why are you here? How long are you here for? Do you have proof you're leaving? Maybe they should watch their own videos. Because everyone else, once you get past that, from that point on, like baggage handlers, wonderfully friendly, hi, and just the immigration people. Going to charm school. And what's going to happen the next time I come to America? Hell. Okay.
I was wondering which was your favourite Doctor Who story to make and why?
That's fairly easy. My favourite Doctor Who story to make. Well, I had enormous fun making the first one, which is actually fought to Doomsday. But I think probably overall it was the last story I ever did because it was just, everything kind of fell into place and I was not looking forward to it because it was going to be my last story. I was going to turn into Colin Baker in the end. But nevertheless, we had a fantastic director, we had a fantastic writer, and a brilliant cast that we didn't often have, but everything just slotted into place. And although, in a way, I remember feeling, oh God, if every story had been like this, I'd have stayed for another, 2 years. It was still a wonderful way to go out. So I'd say Gabs Vanderzani. Yeah.
Thank you.
On that note, most all the shows that you've done 3, sometimes 4 seasons.
Yes.
I read many years ago that you were given that advice when you started out.
Yes, well, it's partly true. But I had already done All Creatures
Yes.
for 3 seasons and then stopped. And it's a true story. I was queuing up outside the BBC, and it's very hard to get into the BBC car park because it was very, very small, and the car in front just got turned away. And I was then Doctor Who, so I drove straight in. And it turned out that the car in front had been driven by Patrick Troughton, and he'd been turned away. Because the one great thing about being Doctor Who, you can always get into the car park. And he said to me, I said, like that, look at the Doctor Who, he said, just do 3 years and then get out. And that's what I stuck to, really. And it seemed to fit in very well. I was still quite young, and there are many other things I wanted to do, so I didn't regret it. Apart from turning into Colin Baker, of course. We love to give each other a hard time. It's fine. We're very dear friends. Hiya.
Hi, I'm going to get you in trouble.
Oh,
just
right.
once.
More trouble.
And you have more trouble.
Great.
Along the realm of, father and son activity between you and Tim. do you guys ever get in like little funny arguments or quips and like, you know, hey, at least I know how to use a screwdriver. You throw a piece of celery at him at the dinner table. What's that?
He's always strangely very polite to me. Maybe this goes on behind my back the minute I walk out the door, do you think? So he'll be very, very polite the moment I've walked out the door. It's like, at least I knew I'd have to use a bloody screwdriver. I don't know, but he seems very, very polite. We talk about Doctor Who, but only in the sense of what it's the experience we have. I mean, it's faintly comical that when he's around and we go for a walk in the park with a dog, you know, and the various children, grandchildren. We're both there in our baseball caps and dark glasses, walking along, trying or pretending to look inconspicuous, but in fact we look more conspicuous than anyone else in the park. They're two strange people, you know, in the height of summer with baseball caps and dark glasses on, and everyone's looking around going, "Who are they? Oh, look who it is." Anyway, no, it's quite funny. No, he's very, very, he has never said anything to my face at all, except in Time Crash, of course, in which he spent a good 11 minutes insulting me.
You just want to turn around and say, I brought you in, I'll take you out.
Stay away from my daughter. We did that, of course, we did Time Crash, of course, before they actually started going out, so it's interesting. What might have been.
Thank you, appreciate it.
Cheers.
What is your favorite story from interacting with the other actors who play the Doctor?
Interacting with the other actors.
Yes, like talking to them outside of the show.
Outside of the show, my favourite story, interacting with them outside of the show. Well, so many really. I mean, I remember my first evening with Tom Baker when I did the regeneration, and he gave me. We went for a drink in the bar in a sort of summer break, and he gave me this piece of advice, and I didn't hear what he said. It's absolutely interesting, because it's very noisy in the bar, and I was a bit kind of, you know, intimidated by Tom, and so I didn't like to say, I'm sorry, could you repeat that? So I just went, he said this, what do you like to remember about playing the Doctor? And I went, oh, right, okay, yes. I swear it's true, and I did not dare to go, I'm sorry, could you say that again? So I have no idea what the advice was. It's probably very good, I totally ignored it, I'm sure. Who else? Who else can I think of? Janet. Janet was always great fun to work with. I could repeat the very cruel story about Janet and the boob tube. Has everyone heard
Who has
that?
not heard that?
Oh,
there you go.
Hardly any. Well, quite often you like me to tell it again anyway, don't you? Because you just think it. And again, if Janet sees this video, it will annoy her, and that will please me immensely. So I'll tell it very quickly, because we don't want to waste time for people who've already heard it. Briefly, it's this. At the beginning of the second series, Janet Fielding's costume was changed from an all-in-one kind of like an air stewardess to a strange sort of boob tube and hot pants affair, which apparently was very, very uncomfortable, because there was no real way of keeping it up except to make it very, very tight. And she would always complain about it slipping down. This went on for months. She would go, oh, this top's really difficult because it keeps slipping down. I keep hoisting it up like that. So we were walking along, coming back from lunch one day, and she was whinging about this boob tube slipping down. So I stopped in the corridor that ran outside of the studios. I stopped and turned around and said to her, Janet, would you do me a favour? Would you reach as far above your head as you possibly can? Now, this is my point. You see, ladies, if you're walking around wearing a boob tube, and some bloke says, would you reach as far above your head as you possibly can, would you do it? No! Well, Janet Fielding did. And the inevitable happened, and I ran away. Unfortunately the entire camera crew was walking along the corridor on the other way, and they saw everything. That was fun. It was a fun time, you know. It wasn't really like work. Wish I'd stayed around now, actually. Yes.
Hi. My question is, around the 20th anniversary, you said in an interview or something that you felt the next incarnation of the Doctor should be a woman. And when this incarnation, like when we knew Matt Smith was going to leave, a lot of people were talking about the next Doctor being a woman again. And that obviously didn't happen. And I was wondering if you still felt that the Doctor should eventually be a woman and how long you think it would take.
I don't think I ever said that I thought it should be a woman. I'm very sorry. I mean, I think it was just one of those things that it's always put out there as a possibility. I think it's slightly problematical, I have to say, because it's not like people, the inhabitants of Gallifrey don't have sexes. There are men and women on Gallifrey, as we've seen. Therefore, the Doctor would be actually having a sex change. I mean, it's not like it's just a regeneration that suddenly... I kind of think it's always going to be male, the Doctor. There are female Time Lords, of course. For example, my daughter, who is floating around the universe somewhere. I mean, come on, Stephen, bring her back.
On that topic, every year at Dragoncon, at pretty much every panel we do, somebody asks the question, will Jenny ever come back? So tell us definitively.
Well, I don't know, sadly, because I'm not inside the head of Stephen.
Would Georgia do it?
I don't know. At some point, I think she probably would. At the moment, she's obviously, she's just had a child and she's very much devoted to her family. But I think she's a great little actress, and I would love to see her, carry on with it. So I think as long as they did it sort of 2 doors away from where she lived, I think she's very fond about going away. That's the only thing. I don't know. It would just be a nice idea to bring the character of Jenny back at some point, if not on a spin-off, just as a return visit, because I think the story was sort of slightly unfinished. But there are no plans to do that. My only point was I just think probably that the Doctor will remain a male. I just think it would be a bit odd, sort of 900 years as a bloke and then suddenly you wake up and you're a woman.
But did you see the one that Joanne Lumley did?
No, I didn't actually. What was that? No, I didn't see that.
In 99, Stephen Moffat wrote, and it was the last regenerations of the Doctor.
Right,
the last
okay.
one is Joanne Lumley.
Right, okay.
It's wonderful.
Well, you didn't see the trauma she went through after the lights went down, did you? I mean, I don't know. Who knows? I don't know. I mean, it will never be up to me, I don't think. Actually, maybe I should be the next producer of Doctor Who.
The classic Doctors can always run into Jenny in the one that you're making.
That's true!
I just want to say that I think you're awesome, and you can say yes to this or no, it really doesn't matter. But can I get a high five from you?
I'm not very good at these modern things, but I'll give it a go. I should stress that this thing that we're kind of having fun with at the moment isn't necessarily a kind of full of special effects. It's not really it's not that kind of thing. But anyway, I hope it'll go. I'll keep my mouth shut. I'm in enough trouble as it is. All right, here we go.
Hi. In the Big Finish Shamara story, The Cradle of the Snake, I really enjoyed your Mara Doctor, and I was wondering if there was any other performances like that where they've asked for something besides just the Doctor that you've enjoyed doing.
Yes, from time to time, they do, I get inhabited by some strange alien creature. It's always fun to do, actually. Don't ask me which stories they are, because I forget, quite honestly. The great thing about Big Finish productions is you don't have to learn the words. So they write the script, and then you come along and you just do it in a day or 2 days, and they're brilliant to do. And then the next time we come in and do one, David Richardson, who does these little interviews for the CDs, he will then ask me questions about the last story. And I'll say, I've got no idea, I've forgotten everything. So I don't know, but yes, I do quite like it when they give me those opportunities. Because Janet made such a big thing out of being in that, the Mara. I thought I'd just show her a thing or two, Show her how it's done.
I've got a serious question and a silly question.
Okay.
The serious question is, I've heard that Janet Fielding has been battling cancer, and Tegan was always one of my favorite companions, and I just hope she's doing better or will do well.
You're absolutely right. She has been battling cancer, and she went through a very bad time last year. I think she's come through it. You can never be sure with these things, but I'm very hopeful that she has. She's a sort of unstoppable force, really, Janet. And I said to her, I just think that will see you through. She's done remarkably well. She's put all her heart and soul into this venture. She's a place where she lives in Ramsgate. She wants to turn into an arts centre, and she's been working hard on that, and we've done our best to help her with that, raising money for it, and that's, I think, helped her through it. We're still in very close touch. In fact, she was insulting me only a couple of days ago. If I had my phone, I'd read you the insulting message. It ended with her just saying, "No one loves you." It's true. She was complaining that I hadn't responded to her last thing, and I said that business class was sort of insulated from the outside world, and probably it was the champagne bubbles that were drowning out the sound of the phone ringing, which she didn't take kindly to. But she's great fun, and I can't imagine a world without Janet, so I'm sure she'll be fine.
Okay, and now the silly question.
Okay.
I remember many, many years ago, one of your first American appearances was at Dixie Truck, which was an Atlanta convention a long time ago.
Right, was that like 1980s? 85? That was the one with George Takei, wasn't it?
Yeah,
Yes, I think it was. Yes, he tried to make everyone go on a marathon run. Mad fool. Well, yes, go on. Yes.
It's just resolving a memory of mine. I remember in your talk, you talked about how when you were younger, you actually had a band and you played a guitar, and you wrote a song.
Yeah.
And the song I remember was called Officer McGurk.
McGurk,
and the lyrics,
yes.
McGurk, yeah, and the lyrics were something like, "Officer McGurk, you are the greatest man on earth, I do declare."
That's roughly it, yes.
Yeah. Wow. About basically an encounter with the stereotypical Southern, sheriff.
Yes, I think someone recorded it, didn't they? And I think somebody just told me out there that someone recorded it at that convention and put it on YouTube. Is that right? I don't know.
Yes. Wow. Yes.
I'd be scared to watch that. Yes, it is a song. It's a song, an absurd song about an American policeman who went around shooting everybody, essentially. And I have to say, it was written without me before I ever came to America. I had no idea that American policemen went around shooting everyone. Of course, I understand it. It was just this idea that this rather strange Irish-American cop was, anyway.
Thank you, at least I know I'm not going to sing.
No, you're not going mad. I did sing that song, yes, thank you. It was about 15 minutes long.
I know that Sylvester McCoy never really had a sonic screwdriver. I was wondering if you ever had one and what did it look like?
I did have one, and it had a sort of, it looked a bit like a space capsule on the end of it. It didn't swivel around or make a noise or anything. And it was blown up by the pteroleptals, actually, or rather the pteroleptals robot. That's correct, isn't it?
Yes, it is.
Yeah. My encyclopedia to my right. Yes, and so I had it only for really one story, because John Nathan Turner, the producer, felt, and I think he had a point here, and maybe it's getting a little like that now, is that it just solved too many problems.
Yes.
And you could point the sonic screwdriver at anything, and you could get out of a locked door, you could switch off a bomb, you could do anything really. And that really wasn't what the program was. He felt what the Doctor was about. The Doctor was about just solving things with bits of string and cricket balls and everything. Just things that you might have in your pocket. So they blew it up.
I've also got another question. I've heard that when you have the celery in your pocket, that it was for a snack during the show.
It was what?
For a snack during the show.
Here's the truth. I hate celery. Absolutely true. When John Nathan Turner came up with the idea of wearing celery on my lapel, I said that's fine as long as I'm only wearing it on my lapel and not eating it. And then he wrote a scene, I think in Castrovalva, where I walk into this room and there's celery, and I take, celery, and I take a bite of it. I think, and then I stick it on my. I think I take a bite. In one of the stories, definitely. And then what you don't see is at the end of the tape, they cut, and I'm going. Don't like it. Just don't like it.
Even with ranch?
Never tried doing that. I'll go home and try that.
I have two questions for you.
Okay.
One is congratulations on your grandchild.
Thank you.
When it grows up, it's going to call you grandfather.
Yes, Grandad. George was very keen on them calling me Grandad. I don't like it.
Secondly, I really enjoyed your Big Finish audios. Is there any chance that they will animate some of them, especially spare parts? That is one of the most brilliant Doctor Who stories I've ever seen.
You know, it's not a bad idea, is it? But I don't know that there's any plans to do that. I think it would work rather well. But Big Finish people are the people to ask about that. I've just done my.
But it's just a thought. But it's one of the most brilliant.
Yes, I know it is. It is a great story. Yeah. But maybe sometime in the future when animation becomes really cheap, they'll go back over all these things. There'll be actual digital versions of ourselves. Maybe that'll be it. That'll be actually like us, but, rather than just sort of animated in a cartoon.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Cheers.
Hopefully you'll come to time gate one day.
Okay, thank you.
Maybe. Speaking of Big Finish, they are doing a multi-Doctor 50th anniversary story.
They are.
Which you've already recorded.
Yes, most of, yes.
Any teasers?
No.
Okay.
Because I can't remember anything about it. That's a lie, but I can't reveal anything. Come on, I've got myself into enough trouble today. Grits. Do you have grits here? Yeah. What are grits about? What is grits? I mean, I took a mouthful of these things. Maybe it was one for celery.
Did you have them with butter or cheese?
What? I didn't have with ranch, no, I didn't
Violent sauce! Okay.
Now this little guy is really sharp.
Okay.
Watch out for him.
Watch out, okay.
Okay. Two questions. One, is that too loud?
No, that's fine. You're just fine.
One, how hard was it filming the 5 Doctors? Because there was a lot of, with all those other actors around, how hard was it?
How hard was it?
Yeah.
Very hard, because they're all very difficult. I think it was the only easy one,
Basically my question was, since you were so used to the fact that it was only you on the show, was it a little hard to deal with the fact that there was...
No, I loved it, actually. To be honest with you, I loved it. And there was a feeling that John Nathan Turner had that there would be too many egos on the set if he had too much with us all. So we only really had a short period of time when we were all together. And I think that was a bit of a shame, because actually we got on fine. We knew each other anyway because of conventions. And the thing about Doctor Who is, that although John, there's no doubt that John Pertwee probably thought he was the best Doctor, but that was kind of fine. I didn't mind that. And I loved Patrick Troughton, and so It would have been fine, I think, to have more of us all together. I enjoyed having them there immensely.
Okay.
Especially Tom Baker, as he was only on film in a punt. But no, he wasn't hard, he really wasn't. Oh, great.
Okay, and two, what do you think was the most underrated of your episodes? Because because you may have liked one that a lot of people didn't. What was that episode that you think?
Right, well, the trouble with this question is that I'd have to know which episode everyone hated the most in order to figure out which. Well, yes, in a way, Time Flight, it's actually, Time Flight is a great story. It's just we ran out of money. So we made it, and there were some huge mistakes made in the making of it. For example, how does Concorde land in the middle of what appears to be like a mountain range with rocks everywhere without it seemingly absolutely fine? Where does it find the runway? The idea that it landed before there was an airport was fine, because Heathrow was in fact a heath, which would have been flat, but the set they gave us was like rocks and everything, mountains almost, which is a bit bizarre. It was an unfulfilled episode. I thought it was a good story, but the monsters I didn't think were very good, and we filmed it rather than film it. We actually did film on Concorde when it was on the ground, but then everything else was in what they call a perspective set on Studio 8. Which meant, they had models of the Concorde in the distance that you were meant to believe were sort of, the actual Concorde a mile away. And I just don't think it worked, and it was a shame because we'd spent all the budget on other stuff. So that, in a way, that was the most, I wouldn't say underrated, because I didn't think it was very good in the end, but it could have been so much better if we'd done it properly.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
We have about 15, maybe 14 minutes now.
Okay.
Hi.
Hi.
I was wondering which of the quote-unquote new Who companions you would have thought would be most interesting with your doctor?
With my doctor? Well, I think I was asked this question before, and I'll stick with my answer, which I think the best companion there's ever been was Rose. Because they kind of just got it right. For years they were struggling with what to do with companions to make them more interesting. And what you do is you just make them a real person. Actually, that's as simple as that. You don't make them just say yes, no, yes doctor, no doctor. You don't make them trying to be killing the doctor or not wanting to be there. You just make them into a real kind of character. And everyone, male or female, could identify with Rose and the predicament that she was in. She wanted to go off with this game, which is enormously exciting. But she had this terribly, she had the draw of being wanting to stay on Earth as well. And it was, I just thought it was a wonderfully realised character. So both in the script sense and in the performance sense. So yeah, I would say Rose.
Thank you.
Cheers.
I would love to see Tegan and Donna meet up at some point.
Yes. That's another one I've run away from. Hiya.
I actually have two questions. One real quick. When you became the doctor, did they approach you or did you go to them?
No, they approached me.
Okay. And that leads to the second one, what was your first gut reaction when they came to you and said, will you be the doctor?
A kind of sinking feeling, really, because it took me about a week before I said yes to it. He just rang me up one night, John Nathan Turner, and told me that Tom Baker was leaving, and I didn't catch on as to why he was even telling me this. He just said, oh, I'm just ringing up. I said, hi, John, because I'd worked with him for a bit. He was on All Creatures Great and Small for a while. And he rang me up and he said, oh, hi, how are you? I said, fine. He said, Tom Baker's leaving Doctor Who. I said, why are you telling me this? I said, how do you feel about being the next Doctor? And it was that sinking feeling, I think, that it was kind of a dilemma, because I'd grown up watching the series. I did think I was quite young. I knew in the end I would say yes, but it wasn't a comfortable decision, first of all. It's that thing that you know you can't turn it down rather than anything else. The moment you're offered Doctor Who, my sense of it, anyway, was I can't possibly turn this down, but I'm not sure about it. And in the end, that's what it came down to. And I just thought, I can't. The way things work in this business is if you've been offered a part and you turn it down, you really can't go around telling everyone that you were offered the part before the person had played it. So if there had been someone before Peter Capaldi, it would be unfair for him to go around saying, I was offered it before Peter Capaldi. Do you know what I mean? So you don't do that. You just turn it down and then you just keep stum. So in the end, I couldn't turn it down because I thought, I can't keep this stum. I can't not go around telling everyone, I was offered the Doctor. I was offered the part of Doctor Who, it could have been me. So I thought, well, I'm going to do it. And I was very happy. I never regretted it after I said yes to it. But it did take me about a week to decide that I should do it. Thank you. Sorry. Hello. Yes, that's all very good.
I wanted to ask whether in All Creatures Great and Small, did you really stick your hands inside animals?
Absolutely we did. Because it was the BBC and they weren't going to spend any money on special effects on cows and bottoms. So we had a vet advisor, and I read this in the script before, and I thought, there's no way they're going to make us do this. And then I went up there, and we went around with the vet, and he said, right, Peter, this is how you do it. You take your jacket off, you roll your sleeve up, you put soap on your arm, and then you go right up the cow. And you're not serious. A bit like John McEnroe, you are not serious. And then it came to the day when I had to do it for the first time. And it was really quite scary because, it's kind of, not something you're used to doing. Anyway, so it was a freezing cold day. It was early spring, I think, and I was standing there on a Yorkshire hillside with my arm up a cow. And you know what? My arm was the only warm part of my body. So after a while, I got quite used to it. It's on my CV now. Yes, I did. Thank you.
We have 7 minutes.
My question is, did you see the 11th Doctor season finale, and what did you think of it?
I did not. I have not yet seen. I have been following the series, but I have not got as far as the finale, I'm afraid, because I've been working quite a lot. And so that's still on my, over here you call it TiVo. So I haven't seen it. But do we kind of appear in it a bit, the old Doctors or something? Is that shot?
Yeah. Do you know what clip they used?
No, I don't. You mean you're not going to tell me?
It was an interesting choice. It was the scene, it was a little clip from Arc of Infinity where you're doing this.
Oh, right, okay, yes. Okay. Is it all right today? It was obviously not very good quality, was it, compared to the digital, super digital...
It was remastered.
Yeah.
And my second question is, how many companions did you have, and which one was your favorite?
I think I had 5. Is that right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, I had 5. My favourite, strangely, was Nissa, because she caused me the least trouble. So I thought she complimented the Doctor, and she was kind of intelligent, and she wanted to kind of be there. It's nothing to do with Janet, who I love dearly, but Tegan really didn't want to be there. Turlo was trying to kill me. Adric wanted to go home. I don't know, Perry, I don't know what she wanted really. Colin Baker, I suppose. No, she just ruined my regeneration with her cleavage. Apart from that, it was fine. No, it's true. I was acting my heart out when I saw it on the playback. I thought, that's Nicola Bryant's cleavage. I mean, what's going on? I mean, no one's going to notice my acting. So I would say Nissa is my favourite, yes. Thank you. Let's see if we can get to the end of these questions.
What was it like working with Diana Rigg on that series of mysteries, the name of which actually is
Mrs. Bradley Mysteries. She was as scary as hell. As scary as hell. I had my least favourite line I've ever had to say to anybody in any scene ever in the history of my career, which I was, for some bizarre reason, I think he should have been older, Inspector Christmas, I was kind of considered Mrs. Bradley's love interest. Well, the character of Mrs. Bradley didn't look like she'd ever contemplated any love interest anyway. But then I had to say, at one point, they'd written this line, "You can be the cream in my coffee any day, Mrs. Bradley." And when I did this in the scene, she gave me such a withering look. Anyway, no, she's very nice, but she was a bit scary. Yeah.
My question is, throughout all the doctors, like what changes have you seen throughout all the doctors of the regenerations?
What changes in the various different doctors?
How their personality and acting changes.
Well, I think it changes with every doctor. I think every doctor, you kind of sort of decide on your, I know we're all meant to be the same person, but you just sort of decide on your personality trait. I think he has a great love of Earth, and he wants to protect it. And it's that in varying degrees. I think it's become, and I have to say, I kind of maybe do think I started this off. He's become much more fallible, I would say, over the years. And I think I did kind of start. I wanted to make him a bit more vulnerable, a bit more liable to make mistakes, because I just felt it was probably what would happen. And I think that has been amplified over the seasons, certainly with David Tennant's Doctor and with Matt Smith's as well. That he doesn't always get it right, you know. That's it, right? Okay, yes.
And unfortunately, this will be our last.
No, really?
I'm so sorry. But we have to cut it. I'm so sorry.
So sorry.
But come back to this Q&A tomorrow.
I'm really sorry. Yes, go on.
Okay, my question is, how do you feel about Peter Capaldi being a new Doctor, and what do you expect?
Okay, I think it's a brilliant choice. I mean, they could, let's face it, they couldn't go much younger, could they? I mean, although my son is waiting in the wings. No, I think he's an excellent choice. He's a brilliant actor, and he's a very nice man, and that maybe doesn't seem to be relevant, but in a funny kind of way, I think it is. He's a Doctor Who fan. You know, and I think that's a major, really is a major thing as well. So he'll want to do the series justice. I think it'll be good for the writers to have a different kind of character to write for. I think it will push them into a different sort of way of writing for the Doctor, which I think the Doctor will always benefit from. I know there are some people who go, oh, I don't think I'll watch him now because he's not young like Matt Smith. But, you know, it won't make any difference. That first episode, I believe, truly, that first episode will go out and you'll all fall in love with him, as you have to a greater or lesser extent with all the previous Doctors, because he is the Doctor. That's the brilliant thing about Doctor Who, you know, in a way it's like, you know, you create your own Doctor and then you will take him on board. So I think you'll love him. I think you'll love him. I think you'll do brilliantly well.
Do you think he'll be as good as you?
But of course, that's a different question entirely.
I just wondered, when you played the Doctor, which of the villains you went against was most interesting?
Potentially, I think the Master is always the most interesting because he is like the Doctor. I mean, again, my Doctor was my Master was the first Master. He sadly died, but I do think it's a very interesting relationship, which could be explored.
With politeness, I hope that your friend gets better. God bless him.
Thank you.
And, security.
Is that mine?
We have a lost wallet.
Thank you very much. Are we done?
So, everybody, thank you so much, Peter Davison.
Thank you very much indeed. It's been great being here. Nice to see you all.